how do you ride drop-offs? The first thing to learn really is how to manual properly, and we've done loads of videos on that already, so click down below, there'll be a link in the description for how to manual first. I'll talk about that briefly now, but a good manual is important because you'll be using your weight to lift the front wheel rather than using your arms. If you use your arms to lift the front wheel, it's easy for the wheel to go slightly sideways, which can get you in trouble on bigger drop-offs, but also actually you're pulling the bars up and your weight is staying quite far forward on the bike. So if the front wheel then drops too early on a drop-off, you're in trouble. With your nice manual technique, you can then start using that on drop-offs that are too big just to roll down. So drop-offs become unrideable when they get so big that actually you start catching your chainring on there, and that can lead to you going over the bars. And if you've got no experience with judging that, a good height to aim for is axle height on your wheels. Anything above axle height means it's probably unrideable. That means you're going to have to keep the front wheel up to stop you from going over the bars. So the technique you actually use on that drop-off is going to depend on the run out and the size of that drop. Here we're in a really nice spot to practice the manual off a drop because it's not very big. I'll get away with just rolling that if it all goes wrong. So I've spotted my landing and I'm going to try and do enough for manual to match that landing. So by that I mean trying to land two wheels at the same time. If you're dropping off into a down slope, landing front wheels first is okay because your front wheel's getting there first, but matching the landing is generally the best way of doing it. So here I'm going to judge my speed, and if I'm going slow, I'm going to pop a nice little manual to keep my front wheel up and in the air until my back wheel gets there, and try and land two wheels at the same time. So it's really important that you use a good manual technique off a drop-off, because the final position of a good manual, your hips will be nice and safe to the back of the bike, you'll be heels down and head up. So even if that front wheel drops on you more than you expect, you're right back here and you've got a really good chance of getting away with it. Whereas if you relied on a front wheel pull with the handlebars, all your weight is then on the bars and you could be in trouble. So get those manuals nailed first. Drop-offs are possible on any bike, but there's a few little bike setup things that are going to help. Getting your seat low and out of the way is going to give you more space to move back on the bike. A shorter stem and a more aggressive bike, maybe full suspension bike, will make it a little bit more forgiving, especially when you're learning. So once you've got your manual technique nailed on the small drop-offs, well done, that's the real technique that you'll always need. And actually, when you start going towards bigger drop-offs, it's much safer to use a little bit more speed. The technique gets much easier when you're going a little bit faster. You can start forgetting about that big pump to manual to keep the front wheel up. With the extra momentum, you can just slide the bike forward in front of you. You'll end up in that same position to the rear of the bike. You just don't need that pump to keep the front wheel up higher. So that's much safer to use on a bigger drop-off like this, where it's not rideable. You've got to do something to get off this drop-off. Another thing to remember is your entry point and exit point. That's just a certain point on the trail where you want to stop pedaling, stop braking, and look where you're going. Once you're in, you're in. Do whatever you've got to do to get off that drop-off, and same on the way out. You've got to let the bike settle before you start cornering, braking, pedaling. So here we've got quite a tricky drop-off. It's got a really steep run in that's actually quite slippy as well. So I need to be on my brakes here, otherwise I'm going to go firing off down the hill. But there's that point of no return that when I get really close, I've got to come off the brakes and just do whatever I've got to do to get off this drop-off and match the landing with my bike. Occasionally you might find that actually bringing in a good bunny hop off the end of a drop-off will work nicely. You can gain a bit of extra height and a bit of length and land into a bit of downslope that's going to make it smoother. That's when drop-offs almost turn into road gaps or step downs.
So there you go, that's how to drop off. Remember, start nice and small before you work up to bigger drops.
Yeah, and definitely have a look at our manual video, which is up there. A manual's an essential technique for this, and hopefully then go a little bit quicker and you don't have to use it quite as much.
And for bigger drops like that one, where you can get to a nice transition, you should check down here for how to bunny hop.
let's get out there. It's loads of fun drop-offs. And as always, you can click on us to subscribe to the channel.
You won't miss a video.
Yeah. Right, that one next.